Hello friends, I am Asad Kumar Sahu. In this first session of the role of cooperative movement in value chain development, in this session we will be discussing about the history of the cooperative movement in India. So let's start. Cooperative movement in India was introduced as a state policy. Why state policy? Because the directive principle of the state policy aimed to create social and economic conditions under which the citizens can lead a good life. They also aim to establish social and economic democracy through a welfare of the state. The farmers of the India were not an organized lot, and due to low education levels and lack of leadership, they could rarely unite. The middlemen always took advantage of this weakness of the farmers and exploited them in multiple ways. The moneylender would lend money at a very high interest rate at that time, and eventually the farmers were not able to pay the money, and in return they have to hand over their own land or any livestock they have. The trader could bargain a very low price owing to lack of warehousing facilities in the mandis at that time. The produce was subsequently sold to the consumer at a very high price, and all the profits were taken away by the middlemen. The cooperative movement in the country, in spite of its few shortcomings, helped to consolidate the farmer, especially the marginal ones, giving them the bargaining power to ensure not just better remunerative prices but also access to potential market. We have seen remarkable changes in the dairy sector, sugar sector, fruits and vegetables, fisheries, poultry, etc. The cooperative experiments in the lines of the working of the Agricultural Bank of the Egypt. In 1904, the Cooperative Credit Societies Act was introduced. The aim of the act was to encourage thrift, self-help, and cooperation amongst the farmers, artisans, small landowners, and the persons in the limited means. The cooperative movement in India can be divided into two parts. The first is pre-independence period, and the second one is the post-independence period. In the pre-independence period, they were classified into four phases. That is the initiation phase. Second is the modification stage. Third is the expansion stage, and fourth is the restructuring stage. First, we will be discussing about the initiation stage, which was from 1904 to 1911. Here, the money was always scarce in India, and the small farmers always faced the challenge of buying quality inputs in absence of formal money lending institution. This situation was exploited in the earlier part of the 20th century by non-formal institutions and agencies who come to rescue for the helpless farmer by charging a very high rate of interest. Often, the situation came to the stage that the farmer had to sell their belongings to repay the debts. Gradually, these money lenders become a very big problem for all farmers across the country. In many parts of the country, especially in the Pune and Ahmednagar, the farmer organized themselves and agitated against these moneylenders. The repeated agitation by the farmers made the government realize the gravity of the situation, and ultimately three acts were passed. Those acts were Deccan Agricultural Relief Act in 1879, Land Improvement Loan Act in 1883, and the Agriculturalist Loan Act in 1884. The attempt was to bring the relief to the helpless farmers. At that time also, famine was a regular feature in India. Famine means shortage of food. The Commission was set up in 1901, which strongly recommended financial support to the farmers to prevent famine. Finally, finally, the Cooperative Society Act was passed in 1904. Some of the highlights were: first one, the Act recommended two categories of cooperative society. The first society is the rural cooperative society, and the second is the urban cooperative society. Sec- Second point, the societies were organized and controlled by a government appointed register. And the third, credit or loan was to be extended to only members of the society against personal security or immovable security like land or house. Fourth, the voting rights were specified in the act were based on one man, one vote. Though the Cooperative Society Act of 1904 was a bold step forward, but still it has many limitations. Some of the limitations are: the Act only specified setting up credit cooperative society, and there is no provision for setting up non-credit cooperative societies in rural areas. And the second is, the individual society were functioning as independent body with the register as the regulator. Absence of a central agency to supervise and regulate the fund was a big loophole. Third point, there was no specific basis of classifying rural and urban cooperative societies, which created a lot of differentiation problem. The fourth point, it was felt that there should be a process of reorganization of payments of credits. And the second stage is the modification stage. This was for the period of 6 years, that is from 1912 to 1918. With the in this stage, due to the increasing dissatisfaction with the Act of 1904, the government re-enacted the Cooperative Society Act in 1912. This re-enacted Act took care of all the shortcomings of the previous Act. The new Act took into consideration the legal protection of all types of cooperatives, including central financial agencies and the supervising unions. It also brought an objectivity in the distinction between the rural and the urban society. The Act of 1912 had the provision of limited liability only in case of primary society. For central societies, the liabilities was unlimited. The Act provided for registration of all types of societies, credit as well as non-credit. The government in the right earnest appointed a committee in 1914 headed by Sir Edward Magellan to review the progress of the cooperative movement post 1912. The report finally was submitted in 1915 by Mr. Edward. He also highlighted some shortcomings, and some of them were illiteracy and ignorance of the masses, misappropriation of the funds, rampant nepotism was also observed by him, inordinate delay in granting loans, viewing cooperative movement as a government movement. Maclellan went one step ahead and recommended some suggestions for the smooth functioning of the cooperative society. Those suggestions were: first one, the cooperative principle should be educated to all members. Trust and honesty should be the basis of taking loan. Loan should be extended to members only. Proper scrutiny of application of their genuineness and close follow-up of application should be carefully done for effective and genuine utilization of the loan. The fifth one is the rule of one member, one vote should be strictly implemented. Then he also recommended that attempts should be made to raise capital from amongst the members only, not only from the government. Then the seventh is proper monitoring of the timely repayment should be done. Though the recommendations were put forth, but the government could not implement them due to the First World War. And then the third stage is the expansion stage, which is from the period of 1919 to 1921, 1919 to 1929. Cooperatives under the provincial subject under the Monte-Chelmsford Act of 1919. This gave further impetus to the cooperative movement. Different states or provinces started enacting their own acts to make the cooperative movement a success. This development resulted in a massive increase in the membership of the cooperative societies during this period. This period also witnessed the formation of the cooperative land mortgage banks. It started in Punjab but subsequently spread to Madras and Bombay at that time. And by the end of 1929, the world faced one of its worst economic depression. There was a drastic downfall in the prices of agricultural commodities. The economic crisis led to large unemployment. The cooperative society faced a major challenge of farmers not being able to repay the loans. As the dues increased, the cooperative societies were getting ruined gradually. And the last stage was the reconstructing stage, that was from 1930 to 1946. After the economic recession, the failure of the cooperative society led to setting up a series of inquiry committees to examine the possibilities of reviving and restructuring the cooperative societies. Madras province set up the Vijay Raghava Charya committee. Travancore and Mysore set up the Rehabilitation Inquiry Committee. Gwalior set up Kale Committee. Mehta and Vansali Committee was set up in the Bombay and Was Committee in Punjab. One such committee set up by government by government, the Indian Central Banking Inquiry Committee in 1931 came up with many glaring lacunae. The most important being is the undue delay in the loan processing and inadequacy of the credit available. On the other hand, two acts, the Madras Cooperative Society Act of 1932 and the Madras Cooperative Land Mortgage Banks of 1934, was promulgated with the former focusing on growth of cooperative movement while the latter aimed at developing the long-term credit. Many states saw the Congress coming in power in 1937, and with this they started attempts at reviving the interest in developing the cooperative movement. Inquiries are conducted to ascertain the real reasons for the failure of the cooperative and also made provisions for clearing the overdues. Around this time, the Second World War also got started, and this has far-reaching impact on the cooperative movement. Prices of agricultural commodities started rising. The farmers started getting extra economic gains. There is a rapid increase in the non-credit society like distribution and marketing, processing and production, and consumer society. With increased business, the cooperative society required more working capital at that time. The societies gained in strength and vigor. The cooperative movement got a pushed also by formation of All India Cooperative Planning Committee in 1945. This was the cooperative movement in the pre-independence period. And then we will be discussing about the cooperative movement in the post-independence period. After India gained independence from British, the first Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was a strong supporter of the cooperative movement, made it an integral part in the five-year plans. NDC, National Development Council was formed in 1958, recommended on National Cooperatives Policy. In 1984, the Multi-State Cooperative Society Act was introduced by the government. Then after that, the success of White Revolution and the Green Revolution had a very positive impact on the cooperative movement in the post-independence period. Finally, in 2002, the Government of India announced the national policy on the cooperatives. The the primary objectives of the national policy on cooperatives were extend support for creating awareness, promotion and development of cooperative society, minimization of regional imbalances due to multiple laws, capacity building amongst cooperative society through education, training, and manpower development. So in short, we have discussed the history of the cooperative movement in India. In the next session, we will be discussing about the role of cooperative in rural value chain creation in the dairy sector. We'll discuss this with the example of the Amul. Thank you.